Welcome to 3D Max Design, 3D Design and Animation. We're going to be using a program called Autodesk 3D Max Design. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. It takes a while to launch the first time that you launch it. The program is very, very deep, very intense. Hopefully you'll be able to pick it up fairly quickly. As soon as it opens up, you're going to see something called a perspective viewport, and it is shaded. This will help you as you go along. There are times when you want to go to a top view, an orthographic view, a bottom view, a front, a back, and so forth. But we will talk about that later. The key components of 3D Max Design are located over here on the right side of the screen. If I move my mouse arrow, you can see that thing that looks like a sun will highlight and say create. Right next to create is modify. If you notice, under create, standard primitives, you have box, cone, sphere, geosphere, cylinder, and so on. If I click on the modify tab, it's going to change the screen. So let's go back to create. Let's choose box. I'm going to hold the mouse button down, let go of the mouse button, and the box is created in 3 dimensions. Immediately come over here to the right side and let's see a few things that might be useful at this time. There are arrows, up and down arrows next to the word length. If I hold down the arrow, I can actually increase the length of the box. If I want to highlight the length and type in a number such as 25, I can do that. The same thing with the width. I can change the width on the fly, and if I wish, I can type in a number. Again, 25. The height is the same thing. So let's just go ahead and type in 25. I have a box drawn in the screen that has a length, width, and height of 25. I'm going to aim up here at the shaded portion, and I'm going to choose something called edged faces by right-clicking the word shaded. Now you can kind of see that all of the faces are shaded. Let's change the length, the width, and the height. Now I've divided the box into 4 separate faces on each face. Let's go back and get rid of that edged face. See how that works? Another way of doing that is clicking the F4 button on your keyboard, the function key F4. If I want to change this to wireframe, I can also do that, which takes away the shades on the top of the face. If I want to bring that back, I can just choose the F3 function key. Let's go over to sphere and draw a sphere. Immediately look over to the side and see what it shows. You've got a radius of the sphere of 15.058. Again, the arrows will allow you to change the size of that radius. Let's go ahead and type in 20. I want you to notice there's something here called base to pivot, which just simply means that now the sphere or the ball is sitting on the floor. Previous to that, the middle section of the ball was right on the floor. So you can use base to pivot. Let's try a cylinder. I'm going to draw a cylinder with a radius and a height. And again, you can do exactly the same thing. The program is about creating and then changing, or creating and then modifying. Let's change that radius to 4 and the height to 35. And notice my F4 is still on, which gives us the edge faces. So if your F4 is not on, you won't be able to see if you increase the height segments. So let's go ahead and increase the height segments. Let's increase the side segments. Let's decrease the side segments. You can't really see it from that point of view, but if you add a couple of cap segments, it simply will do that. We'll talk more about that as we go along. So now let's go and try a teapot. Someone figured years and years ago how to create a teapot just by dragging the mouse. Now I want you to notice that the teapot and the sphere are kind of sharing the same space. So if I go up onto the top portion of the screen, there's something called select and move. Okay? Or I can right click and go to the quad menu and I can choose move. Notice that I'm moving it along the x-axis. Highlight the y. I'm moving it only along the y-axis. And now I highlight the z-axis. I'm moving it along the z-axis. Let's right-click and choose rotate. I can do the same thing here. I can highlight the x-axis and rotate my teapot back and forth. I can go to the z-axis and I can rotate the teapot back and forth. I can right click again and I can choose move. Let's go and draw a plane. Before I draw the plane, I'm going to come down to the bottom of the screen and I'm going to choose something called zoom. When I push the zoom button in, a magnifying glass appears, allows me to zoom in and out of the scene. Now remember when I right clicked and I chose rotate, it allowed me to rotate the individual object. Down at the bottom of the screen, there's something called orbit subobject, which allows me to orbit the entire scene. That's a real nice fixture. Real nice fixture. Right next to the orbit subobject, you have something called minimum maximum toggle. If you click that once, 3 additional viewports appear. The perspective viewport is still the active viewport. If I aim over here at the top viewport and right click, now the top viewport becomes active. Remember the function key that I mentioned, F3. F3 will put the shaded features onto that viewport. If I move over towards the front viewport and right click and press my F3, I've shaded the front viewport. Same as the left, aim in the left viewport, right click to activate it, and then choose the F3. So let's go back and choose minimum maximum toggle, and now we're going to go ahead and draw our plane. Remember that as soon as I draw the plane, I can change the length and I can change the width. And because our F4 edge faces is on, I can increase the length and the width segments. Let's go ahead and draw a cone. So with the cone, I have something called radius 1, which is the base. I have radius 2, which is the size of the top of the cone. And I have height segments, and I have cap segments if I want. And I have side segments. I can increase or decrease the side segments. You'll learn a little bit more about that as we go. Let me go ahead and add a few cap segments, and I'm going to go to the zoom, and I'm going to come up a little bit closer to those cap segments. Notice there are 3, now 4, now 5 cap segments. If I don't want any cap segments, I can just aim at the arrows and right click and send those cap segments back to 0. I would think if I want that cone to come to a perfect point, I would do the same thing with radius 2. So I'm going to aim at the arrows and I'm going to right click, send that radius 2 back to 0, and it gives you a perfect cone. Let's change the height segment a little bit. Let's change radius 1. And that is the end of the first lesson. Any questions? Come to me individually and we'll see if we can work those out.